Hey everybody, welcome back to Blu-Roy Movies. It's Sunday again, which can only mean one thing. It's time for the weekly watches. Gosh, these weeks soon go by. It'll soon be Christmas. We've got 7 titles to talk about this week, which seems to be my average at the moment. One a day, which can't be bad. So let's crack right on with it. First of all was last Sunday. My wife and I, we watched The Omen. She loves her horror films, as regular channel viewers of the channel probably know. And 2005 this come out. It's pretty much shot for shot for the original. Stars Liev Schreiber, who not a patch on Gregory Peck, but who is, to be fair. Julia Stiles, I thought she'd done a decent job. I quite like her as an actress. But Mia Farrow, I thought she was excellent. If anything, she might have been an upgrade on the original Nanny. And yeah, it's copy and paste from the original, which the original is a classic. Well, this is well done. And if the original didn't exist, would be a worthy, serviceable horror film. The original does exist, and there's no getting away from that fact. If you're going to watch one, watch the original. But killed a couple of hours. It was all right. Next up was the Battle of Britain, and stacked cast on this. Listen to this. Harry Andrews, Michael Caine, Trevor Howard, Kurt Jurgen, Ian McShane, Kenneth Moore, Laurence Olivier, Nigel Patrick, Christopher Plummer, Michael Redgrave, Ralph Richardson, Robert Shaw, goes on and on, Patrick Wymark, Susanna York. All about, as Winston described them, the brave fighter pilots of World War II, defending our shores from the Luftwaffe. And if it weren't for these guys, we'd have got invaded, no doubt about it. And this is a good film, not a great one. I think what holds it back from being a great film for me is, excuse me, there's so many characters, so many different moving parts that it's hard to get any character development. They're doing the dog fights and you can only see the eyes under goggles, so it's hard to tell a character apart. I didn't realise that Michael Caine had been killed until about 15 minutes. I hadn't seen him for. I thought Michael must be dead, because not a lot of people knew that. Yeah, killed a couple of hours, entertaining enough, but like I say, not a great one, but good. Next up was Whistle Down the Wind. Now, been watching Neil's I think it's Neil's DVD collection, his channel's called. He's been showing off his DVD collection in about 300 parts. I think it's got more episodes than EastEnders now, because he's got that many. And when he was doing his W's, he really heaped praise on Whistle Down the Wind, which I'd recently picked up in a charity shop. Because that's what I do. If I see films, DVDs in charity shops that look interesting, I'll still pick up a DVD. I mean, it costs pennies now. I think it's cost 25p or something stupid. But yeah, really good. It stars a young Hayley Mills, Bernard Lee, who you'll know as MP or Q from the James Bond films. Bit of alphabet spaghetti going on with them Bond films sometimes. And Alan Bates. This is set on the farm owned by Bernard Lee, and there's an escaped murderer on the loose, and he's hiding out in Bernard Lee's barn. The kids discover him, and they mistakenly think he's the next coming of Jesus, and all the kids get to know about him, and they're all going to visit him whilst this big police manhunt is going on all around them. And yeah, really, as Neil enjoys this, and I can see why. It's really engaging drama. I think it'd be a good double bill, albeit from either side of the Pennines with Kes, because it had that same feeling for me. A good slice of northern life in the 60s. Yeah, really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4.5 stars on my letterbox, and there's something later on that's going to trump this, which I didn't think it would. It nearly my film of the week, but not quite. So thanks for the recommendation on that one, Neil. I'll stick your details down below. If anybody wants to check out Neil's DVD collection, click on his channel, give us some love. Yeah, just really, really good. Good. Oh God. Next up, Grease. Now this come out in 1978. I was 9 years old. The film is 46-year-old. I've never seen it, and for why, like I say, I was 9 when it come out, and it was all over the telly. You turned on Top of the Pops, and they were doing that stupid dancing, that stupid fairground, and really nauseating. And I knew at such tender age that this wasn't going to be for me. And then you grow up, and every few years you'd have a Grease revival where you go in the pubs and the clubs, and the music's on, and the women are pissed up and singing these nauseating songs, and oh, Joe, just not for me. And anyway, a few years ago, I started working with a guy called Nick. Nick, he was a good few years younger than me, but we hit it off. Now I've met guys on here. I've got friends on here for life now that similar interests with films. But Nick is probably the one person in actual true life who's had this sort of obsession as close to mine with films. And we'd talk about films every day. And we'd work with other guys who like films, but it was all Transformers and Marvel and Fast and Furious. You know, cinematic McDonald's, I call it. But don't get me wrong, I like a McDonald's, and I do like them films to watch. But sometimes I need a bit more substance in my diet. And Nick, he was the same, and he provided some of that substance, and we'd swap films. I remember one day coming really, really excited because he'd seen Singing in the Rain and absolutely loved it. I think his favourite film was True Romance, and we'd give each other different recommendations and talk about it. And yeah, really enjoyed my time with Nick. And now he's a postman. I still see him about, and we wave to each other. But if we had a disagreement on a film, Nick would always say, "Yeah, but your point of view is invalid because you've never seen Grease." And it'd become a running joke after a while. You've never seen Grease. Oh, you've never seen Grease. And I saw Grease in CX a few months ago, and I picked it up. I had no intention to watch it. I picked it up just so I see it on the shelves and remember my time working with Nick, and what great times we had, discussions and fun, because it was a mad place to work. You wouldn't believe some of the tales. And I don't know what it was. The other day, I went by and I pulled it out, and it fell into the player. So that's 46 years, or whatever it was. I watched Grease, and I watched it all, 2 hours worth. And my thoughts, it was crap. Anyway, next up, Blonde Venus, my favourite actress, Marlene Dietrich. And I didn't think I'd seen this, but when it got going, it started falling back into place. She plays quite a few films where she's the saloon kitty singing, and yeah, they do sometimes blend into each other, but when she got going, I recognised it. Her husband, who is played by Herbert Marshall, who, oh God, what's the other film I recognised him for? Trouble in Paradise, a brilliant, brilliant film. Her husband, he got ill, and he had to find the funds to go to America for life-saving treatment, which they didn't have. But during her job singing in the nightclub, Dietrich, she befriends a young Cary Grant, very young fresh face in here, who's a playboy millionaire, who gives them the money so that the husband could go over to America to get the treatment that he needs, or he's going to die. And as soon as his back's turned, Dietrich and Grant, they're in bed together, and it's pre-code film, so it's quite risque for the time. And that kind of detracted from me from the film. She turned out to be, quite an ugly character. As soon as the husband was gone, she was in bed with Cary Grant. But it was an okay film, not the best of hers. If you see it in the indicator sale for £5, by all means, pick it up and give it a watch and see what you think. Yeah, it's okay. Next up, Life of Pi. Whilst not being my favourite film in the world, I do enjoy it. But what I'd say, if you've got, I've got an OLED TV, and the 4K is absolutely jaw dropping in it. So clear. It's all about Pi. He's moving countries with his family from India because they're struggling to make ends meet. So they've packed all the zoo that they own onto this cargo ship, and it sinks. And it's all about Pi trying to survive by himself in a lifeboat. Well, not by himself. He's got the company of a tiger called Richard Parker, and it's their story of them trying to coexist. Pi trying to keep the tiger alive and trying not to get the tiger to eat him. Good stuff, but as I say, the visual treat, absolutely jaw-dropping. Recommend anybody pick the 4K up. I think you get it for well under a tenner. Just must have, I reckon, 4K. Oh, excuse me. Next up, the film of the week, by far for me, Jean de Flore. I was watching Warren's channel, Goose's Movie, and he'd recently watched this. In his last video, he was talking about it, waxing lyrical about this film, and it's a film I'd heard of and I'd heard good things about, and the way Warren was talking about it, I thought I've got to get myself a copy. It stars Yves Montand, who was in The Wages of Fear, another brilliant French film. Daniel Auteuil, if you look at it, I've probably butchered that name, but we'll go with Daniel Auteuil. That's what it's going to be known from henceforth in this video. And Gerard Depardieu, who incidentally had a little part in Life of Pi as a miserable cook on the ship, which was probably the character of the film, actually. This is all about Yves Montand, along with his nephew, Daniel Auteuil. They start a carnation farm, but they're struggling for a water supply. And the farmer on the next farm, he has got a natural spring. So they go and try and buy his land off him, but they've got history before the two families, and it ends up in a fight. And though they don't exactly murder him, he ends up banging his head and dying, and they make it look like an accident. The farm is then inherited by Gerard Depardieu, and he moves in with his wife and small child. And in the meantime, before they move in, the uncle and the nephew, they concrete up the natural spring, so he's got no water supply on his farm, and he doesn't know that the spring's on the farm. They've got plans that they're going to drive him out and buy his land, and the nephew in particular befriends Depardieu like he's his best mate, even though he's stopped his water supply, going around eating with the family, drinking wine with them. Depardieu starts a business where he's breeding rabbits to sell, and vegetables, and at first all's well because it's the rainy season and everything's flourishing. But then a drought hits, the worst drought they've had for years. His rabbits all die, his crops all fail. And the nephew there, he's lending a sympathetic ear, having known that he'd knackered his water supply, and really heinous the way, because the health of Depardieu is going downhill, and this guy's pretending he's supporting him and all that, all he's after his farm. Really, the way they treat him is despicable and really makes you angry. Go over to Warren if you want to. Warren will speak more succinctly about this than I can. He's such a good orator. Click on his last video. I've put his details below and see what he has to say about it, because he speaks really well. I've got the sequel as well, which Warren says is equally as good. I think it's about like the daughter's grown up, and from her part of the story. So that won't be long before I'm watching that. So that's everything I've watched this week. Some good stuff, and Grease. Bloody hell. Give me a like if you've liked it. It gives a thumbs up. They keep saying it helps the channel out, and if everybody says it, there must be some semblance in truth in it, I suppose. Maybe subscribe if you've liked what I've done today and you want to hear some more my ramblings. Or less to say is have a good rest of your weekend. You all be good, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.